I will, without much further ado, hand over to Sarah Craig from Telefonica, who's going to tell us about 4G.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I'm really passionate about working for a company that wants to make the opportunities of technology available to all and putting customers right at the centre of that. I'm also passionate about the digital journey because I feel as if I've been on it for a very long time. So I was working in Ericsson when Vodafone went to market with GPRS. I was working at 3, old colleague here in the audience this afternoon, when they launched. And now we have 4G. And all the things that we've talked about over the years feel now as if we are on the brink of really getting that cut through to having the digital world that we've all talked about. So I'm going to talk about 3 things this afternoon. I'm going to talk about ubiquitous coverage. I'm going to talk about the opportunities that that gives us for people, for businesses, for government. And I'm going to talk about how, from an operator's perspective, or this operator's perspective, I should say, we feel we need to take people with us on the journey. So I'll make no apologies for the fact that I can't compete with the technical specialists who are on the panel. I'm sure they'll help me out with some of the harder technical questions. But I really come at this from the heart, and that's why I'm so excited to be part of this afternoon. So I think the reason that I was asked to come along was because we have, through our Spectrum win, an obligation, an Ofcom obligation to bring coverage to 95% of the people in Scotland. That's part of our overall obligation of 98% indoor coverage by 2017 across the UK. Now, somebody asked me over the sandwiches, you know, were we getting on with it? The answer is yes, of course we are now all getting on with it. We have, as most of you will know, a network sharing agreement with Vodafone, and so we are now all working to make sure we get to the coverage as fast as we can. For those of you who were hoping that I was going to give specific details, unfortunately, you'll appreciate, you know, launch details are commercially sensitive and so on. So there won't be much by way of specific information in that respect. But be reassured, there is, as the head of the programme for 4G in O2, there is a massive effort out there making sure that this comes to fruition as we've planned. So I think there's an important thing to remember about the 4G rollout. It's not just about 4G, it's also about improving 3G coverage. And clearly, one of the aspects of ubiquity is that if we have coverage, people also need devices upon which to make use of the technology. And from a Telefonica perspective, we see this as really, really important. And we're working in collaboration with Mozilla on how to bring smart devices to a price point where they're more readily accessible to all. So that's another important aspect. Now, bringing the benefits of fast broadband to areas and groups of people who haven't experienced it before has its challenges, and I know that this is something which is very close to your hearts here. The good news is there's been collaboration before. The Highlands and Islands project that was carried out in the early 2000s, where with great cooperation between government and operators to make improvement. But it feels to me now that the challenge is to take this to another level. And I think it's really important to remember it's not about, you know, a base station technology, it's about providing a solution end to end. So it's about making sure that there's some radio coverage, but also how that integrates into a network, how you do the backhaul, the whole package needs to be considered. And I think from an operator's point of view, it's really important that we recognise that point solutions, bespoke solutions, multiplicities of solutions is really difficult to deal with from an economic point of view. So I think that's something that we need to, as a community, really need to work through, how we make sure that we get the economics of this right between us. But I can see that, you know, the will is there. We now need to turn intentions into concrete plans. So it's about ubiquity of coverage, obviously, but this is about how this will change our lives. And I really enjoyed actually reading your Vision 2020. I especially like that example about travelling into work, finding that there was no all this technology helping you get there and there was still no parking space at the end of it. I'm sure there is an app developer out there that can do something to help us with that problem, so we know it's, you know, time to go to the alternative car park rather than to carry on struggling in. But clearly there's a massive opportunity to change the way we all lead our lives. I went to a school, to my old school for its 100th birthday, 50 years after I left it. And I was struck by the fact that many things were still exactly the same. Yes, there were computers, but things were still very much the same. The blackboards were just white. You know, for me, you know, there's a whole opportunity there in education with cloud services and so on, where we can actually bring learning opportunities to many, many more children through those services than has been possible before. Health, another great opportunity. We've been working with NHS Lothian, bringing monitoring to people's homes using mobile technologies. These are all the things which 4G will help to move forward quite considerably. Machine to machine, we've 20 billion smart devices, connected devices by 2020. For me, it's more about, you know, a vision for a home hub, the things that we can do to actually make that really powerful for customers. And, you know, people are people. They are looking for the opportunities that this presents for entertainment, for example. And last year we helped achieve the first digital Olympic Games. And I think this is a sign, obviously, you've got the Commonwealth Games coming up. Massive opportunities to see people starting to really change their behaviour. So lots of ways in which, from an operator's perspective, we see this not just as about technology and speed, we see it as about ubiquity of coverage helping to change the way we lead our lives. For businesses and government, and I know you know this, there's obviously a huge opportunity for increased productivity for people and processes. And we in Telefonica have done a massive amount to promote flexible working, and you know, to the point where we had a whole day where nobody came into the office, everybody worked out of the office. So there's great examples there of where productivity can be improved. And I think for me, what happens with 4G is that goes to the next stage. So it's not only about downloading very large files, but it's things like being able to do video conferencing, you know, anywhere, anytime. And you know, really that means that you can actually conduct business without the need for an office, a desk, or even a computer. So from a government point of view and local government point of view, loads of opportunities to actually be right there, changing the way in which services are provided. And the way I would sum all this up is it's about changing the relationship between government and business and the customers that they serve. 4G then is a major contributor to bringing digital services to customers. But for me, it's about making sure that we make those digital experiences complete. And I wanted just to say a little bit about what's here and now rather than what's coming. So we have big data is already part of our lives. We have 50% of populations living in big cities. There's some powerful things that we can do, working together between operators, government and business, to make sure that we use anonymised data to actually help us with things like the way in which congestion flows, the way in which shoppers shop, and so on. But I'll come back to what is really important about making use of those possibilities in a minute, which I think is the third part of what I wanted to cover. So for me, we need to make sure that we are tying together these digital experiences. So in our world, we are making sure that local businesses get the opportunities presented by things like being able to offer rewards and loyalty opportunities to their customers. We're already helping customers to use our wallet solution to make payments. We've started a small trial with South Yorkshire Credit Union where we're looking at the cashless society. And clearly, even for things like making small payments, there are opportunities for operators to actually use their billing relationship with customers to help them take those payments onto their bill or onto their prepay account. So a massive amount of opportunity. However, my third point, it depends on building confidence and trust. So to me, this is the important plank of what we need to think about. We can talk about technology, we can talk about the speed of technology, we can talk about ubiquity of coverage, we can talk about digital experiences. But if people don't have confidence and trust, then they will not take up those services. So we really need to tackle that. That will enable us to unlock the possibilities and to get the economic growth that we all believe is possible to get, building on a digital society. So for me, there's three aspects to this. The first is digital capability, and I've talked about 4G as an important part of that. It's not the only part of that. I think there's a massive amount that we can do with 3G as well, and I'm sure we're going to hear later about how the possibilities of technology will improve that digital capability. And I think people will become increasingly confident that mobile networks can cope with the high data demands of the things that they want to do. The second aspect is digital literacy, and the return on investment for building digital literacy is improving all the time, and it's becoming like English and maths. And clearly there's an agenda here which is very close to our hearts in Telefonica, which is all about the young people in society who are digitally literate, giving them the opportunities to really step forward and make use of the opportunity of innovation that 4G provides. So digital literacy, I think, is that second part of building digital confidence. And the third one refers back to what I said earlier about the importance of data. Digital transparency, that is helping people understand how we are collecting, analysing and using their data is really, really important. And this, for me, is going to shoot up the agenda. Because quite honestly, interesting as technology is to technologists, what people really care about is the services that they can use and what's happening to information about them in the context of those services. So I think there's an important third plank, if you like, which is around making sure we work together between operators, business and government to make sure that we build up people's confidence in how we use their data. When we do this, obviously, we have to take care of things like protecting young people, making sure that they know how to protect their privacy and so on. And we have to protect them from, obviously, things which we want to make sure are only in the hands of adults. But for me, if we get this data dialogue right between customers, business and government, it provides a huge opportunity to really leverage all the aspects of the digital world that you've described so eloquently in your Vision 2020. Just some final thoughts then. So ubiquitous coverage will help unlock the potential that we see in your vision. So for me, 4G is just part of the story, and we're going to hear some other parts of the technology story later this afternoon. Digital capability can transform people's lives. It can help to build a really thriving economy. It can. It can change the relationship between businesses and their customers. But it only will do this if we get the digital confidence part of the agenda right. So we want to be digitally confident as a nation, and that will be the real enabler. We get the technology part coming through, but that will be the thing which really helps us to move this through and really give us an opportunity to be successful with Vision 2020. So that was all I was going to say. And we're taking questions at the end, so I will return to my seat.